Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from all over the world, wherever you're tuning in. My name is Adesola Afe, and I'm a Cleveland representative here in Canada. And today we have an amazing topic to talk about. We are going to be talking about the sweetness of marriage, how to get it right. We have three amazing guests in our midst today, and I'm privileged to know them personally. So this is going to be interesting, insightful, and beautiful. Just please stay in, stay connected to us, and you would be blessed and you would definitely enjoy it. One of our guests today is Ambassador Michael. Please wave to us so we know who I'm referring to. Ambassador Michael is a Canadian author, he's a songwriter, he's a recording artist, church elder, he's a deacon and a business entrepreneur with an unquenchable passion for the kingdom of God. His newest short ebook is titled The Sacred Covenant of Marriage, and it is going to be available on his website, which we'll be talking about later on before the end of the call. His greatest passion is developing his greatest passion right now is developing his Breaking Chain music ministry through his YouTube channel, which is at Breaking Chains Music, and his gifting website, where he also publicizes his devotion as well on MLP.com. Welcome, Ambassador Michael. We're glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
Another person today who is going to be on the call is Pastor Ijiamaka. Wave to us, Sarah. I know you have their names on the screen, but it's just nice to wave to them. Pastor AJ Amaka is popularly called Pastor IJ. He is a serial entrepreneur, a pastor, and a child of God. And he's also a lover of God. After a stint time in the oil and gas industry as an IT and logistics expert, he veered off to do his passion, which is in entrepreneurship and strategy. He currently manages businesses in the logistics, automobile, and childcare space. As a pastor, he's also been involved in men and youth ministry since 2014. He has also pastored several churches and acted in different associate roles. He is top and he's also been he lives in the top and has enough room for everyone who cares to pay the price to be there. He's also married and blessed with three amazing children. His wife is also in our midst today, who is our next guest. Pastor Joyce Ojefo, please wave to everyone, is a human resource expert, an award-winning author, and also an associate pastor. She has been involved in women's ministry since 2006, and as a pastor's wife has led many women to Christ and in different several capacities. And over time, she has developed the heart to help young adults to navigate marriage and lifestyle and in finding their partners. She's an inspiration, a counselor, and a mentor to many young couples who have also passed through her nurturing classes. She is a speaker at many marriage seminars and events and is currently pursuing her PhD in Christian counseling. She's blessed with an amazing husband and three children, and she's also one of the authors of one of my favorite books, Roses and Bliss. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you here today. Welcome to Cleveland TV. Cleveland is an online platform that brings together people in the diaspora and at home to come together to celebrate an achievement. And one thing we'll be doing today is definitely talking about marriage. Marriage is a union that a lot of people will experience, might not experience, or know somebody who's experiencing it. So if you are thinking of getting married, if you're not thinking of getting married, if you're already married, this is definitely a great platform for you to be on today because I promise you're going to be learning a lot. So I'm going to start with Ambassador Michael Peel. Um, if somebody comes to you today and asks you, how do I get it right in marriage? And this is a question for all three of you. Ambassador Michael Peel can go first, and then Pastor IJ, and then Pastor Joyce. If somebody should ask you today, how do I get it right in marriage? What do you tell the person? The first thing that comes to mind.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you, Adesola. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to whoever might be listening. You're welcome here today, and hopefully that you have your spirit ears on so that you can hear what the Spirit has to say to you personally. You're going to hear a bunch of things. Some of them are specific, some of them are general, but there is a component available to you to hear exactly what the Spirit needs you to hear at these moments. Praise the Lord. Um, if someone asks me about getting, how can they get it right in marriage, we need to, I personally need to bring it into the right dynamics. Are you asking from a standpoint of Jehovah God, the Bible perspective, or are you asking in a general context?
I'm asking more in a general context. I'm
Yeah,
about to get married. The next stage of my life is marriage, and I'm seeing all these marriages all over just crashing.
crashing
I
and
don't
burning. Yeah,
know. I
okay.
haven't found anybody yet. But what is the one thing advice that you would give me, or maybe not one thing, but what tell me that can help me get it right?
Okay. Well, it still comes back to I need to know that I'm having the proper conversation with the person. So my first query to that individual, whoever they are, is, do you have a relationship with Jesus? Because if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, the answer is a little bit different. Because first and foremost, you need to have that, get that relationship. If there's a resistance to that and you just want a secular type of answer, then there's lots of other places to get that. What my strongest suggestion to anyone would be is there is an opportunity for you to know an eternal loving presence that has your best interest in mind in every single thing that you do. So your first and foremost is to establish that relationship, realize that it's there. Now, if typically the people I'm going to get asking me that question are probably in a Christian relationship of some sort. So then we would walk down the path of, prayer is the first thing. Prayer and communication, because ever since the garden, we haven't been able to physically walk with God. The only way that we can communicate with him is spiritually, is internally. That's what Jesus came and did for us. So take advantage of the fact that you have a internal resident of the divine order that wants to talk to you, that wants to communicate with you. So just tap into that. The first and foremost is prayer and seeking God's will. That encompasses just about everything else. If you have any kind of questions that come up and, well, I really like them, I'm not sure if I like them, I'm not sure if I can do this, I'm not sure if I'm ready, I'm not sure. All these not sures can be answered in a prayer and supplication attitude. Even if you're not a prayer warrior, I'm not saying you have to become somebody that breaks out in tongues and everything. That's not necessarily the posture. It's because prayer is simply communicating. It's asking for internal dialogue from a divine source, and we have access to that. So take advantage of it. That would be my first and foremost, and then there's other components that would come into that. But let the other esteemed colleagues answer that in their own regard. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Pastor IJ, if you'd like to go ahead as well.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on this platform. So to everyone for putting this together, and to Cleveland TV for making this avenue available. Thank you. Um, Going in line with what Ambassador Michael Peel have said, it's a function of the context, right, in which the question is being asked. But regardless of the context, if you actually want to get it right, there is only one way to get it right. All right, and that's from the standpoint of um, being a Christian, being a pastor, all right, and a man of faith. There is one standpoint that marriage could be gotten right, going by the fact that that is what God has instituted and going in line with what the creator of the ends of the earth, the creator of the universe, have already put in place. If you go back to the book of Genesis, all right, after the creation, scripture made us to understand that he created man and he looked for someone that could be a helpmeet for him, and he found none. And he now had to get the woman called Eve, and Eve was created out of the man. And scripture made us to understand in Genesis that he actually took one of the ribs of Adam, and from there he was able to form Eve. And when Eve was formed, Eve was presented to Adam. So why am I going through this route? You say, for this reason, we know that a man have to leave his father and mother and be cleaved to the wife. So the biblical standpoint is the point that I will use to address the question. For you to ever get it right, you have to be you have to go back to the author of marriage, to the institutor of marriage, and that happens to be God. And if he's the institutor of marriage and you need to get it right, then you need to ask him how to get it right. Okay, because he's the one that put everything about marriage together. All right, so getting it right means getting back to the source, to the very source, okay, which is God. Getting to know him, all right, because of course, if you don't know God, you won't be able to communicate with him. He needs to be able to direct you on who to meet, on who your wife is going to be, or who your husband is going to be. So getting it right in answering that question without digging so much, because I know we've got a couple of other questions coming that will also go in this line. All right, getting it right is getting it right with God, and the who is the author and the institutor of marriage. And once you get it right with God, he will be able to help you right with your marriage. All right, and choosing the right person. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we lost our third speaker. When she comes back, we'll definitely be asking her this question as well. One thing I got to learn from what both of you were just saying, just to summarize, is that you need God. You can't get it right without God. And without prayers, you have to seek God's counsel when it comes to marriage to be able to enjoy the sweetness. I think one of the questions we have today is marriage sweet? So it's really important that for you to be able to get it right, the source and the foundation has to be God. And then from there, things can kick off. My next question will be directed to you, Pastor IJ. One of the things the young ladies are talking about right now is, as a believer, I have been approached by a man who has said he likes me and he wants to marry me. And he's I want what I want to call a passive Christian. He comes to church, every Sunday he's sometimes involved in some church activities, but I cannot really tell if he's a believer, but I like him. And I feel like when I marry him, I can bring him closer to Christ with our union. Is this a good way to start a union? And what would you advise a girl or a young lady who has found this person in church? Because he came to meet her in church, and that's one of the good places to find, a Christian brother to marry. So he has come to meet her in church. He's a believer, but she doesn't know how strong he is in Christ. But she believes that their union is going to help she's going to use that union to bring him closer to Christ. What would be like your advice to such a young lady?
Okay, interesting question. I know that for quite a number of young ladies do have this concern or this challenge. And thankfully, we are addressing it from the biblical standpoint. So I would say I would go back again to the roots, right? First, is the person really born again? All right, does the person really know God? And that's very key. Okay, why is it key? It's because that's the foundation of everything good. All right, because you can't get good when you don't know God. All right, if the person is a passive Christian, there is being a passive Christian or being a nominal Christian doesn't mean that you're born again. There are lots of people that are passive, nominal, all right, they go to church, but they aren't born again. So the lady need to ask, is he really born again? Scripture says that by their fruits we shall know them. All right, there are certain traits and characters that will exemplify someone that is really born again. You'll be able to see him, all right, show that character. If you have an orange tree, it can only produce an orange fruit. It can never produce an apple fruit. All right. If you have a guava tree, it can never produce pineapple seed or pineapple fruit. All right. Why? Because the tree itself, all right, carries a DNA that can only produce after its own kind. All right. So any man that's why scripture says, for anyone that is in God, all right, he's a new creation. All things have passed away. He said, behold, all things have become new. So if the person is born again, there are certain fruits that he will begin to bear. I know that there are people that are born again and they are still growing believers. All right. Right. So that one, it's in due time, the person will begin to manifest those fruits. So for that sister that is seeing someone coming to her, all right, that is a nominal, a passive Christian, the question should be, is he born again? If we go back to the book of Romans, I'm sorry that I have to go and touch the scriptures because I'm only going to address it from the biblical standpoint. He says we should not be, we say we shouldn't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. I'm not sure if it's Romans, all right, but because we know that evil communication corrupts good manners, right? So if the person is nominal, all right, what kind of fruit does he bear? What kind of personality is he? Is he someone that is passionate about Christ? And I can tell you, if the person isn't, if the person is not bearing the right fruits, regardless of how long he's been in church, all right, I will say, all right. So because if the sister is not staying away, that's going to be a challenge. All right, I would like other speakers to address this same question. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ambassador Phil, are you there?
I am.
Awesome. Is there anything you'd like to add to that before I...
Oh, how much time do we have? I mean, this is significantly important, and you know, I've been propagating and I've been downloaded in my decades of walking with Christ. I mean, I had a miraculous transformation May 15th, 2004 at 8:35 p.m. I came out of 33 years of secular lifestyle, addictions, confusion, frustrations. I always thought of as a fun, party-loving, quick-witted individual, but I was completely lost. I was a blasphemer, an adulterer, a liar, a cheater, and I thought I was okay. Because I wasn't as bad as some of those other people's. So it's what you start to compare things to, and that's what Pastor IJ was relating to. Is if you're looking for a standard to put something on, you need to go to the author of it. And if the Bible is the author, then, and if you don't know it well enough, then that should be your homework. You should be tapping into that. I had a massive transformation, like I say, May 15th, and I became a new creation. And I was a brand new person. I woke up the next morning and forgot that I was a drug addict for 30 years. How do you do that? I mean, that's only possible if there's a divine intervention. I couldn't swear anymore. Stealing became something that I just appalled, and it used to be something that I would look for, so there was a transformation that happened. And as he's talking about with the bearing of fruit, a tree will only bear the transformation of being born again sometimes may be confusing to people. Really what it means is if you've had an interaction or an internal relationship with a divine entity that is seeking you out moment by moment by moment. You don't have to really go looking for God. You actually have to just pause and wait for him, because he's there. He's deliberately there on purpose with every single person, no matter how bad, good, or ugly, or short, or tall you are. He is looking for you. So that part's not an issue. The born again process is, I have come to the end of myself. I can't do it the way I've been doing it. I'm hearing something about possibly some better way of doing it. Is that possible? In that moment of that utterance, of that heartfelt request, that's when you'll get transformed. That's when you become born again. You are a new creation. Now, you'll learn more about that. I had no clue what that meant, and it scared me, quite frankly, to be called born again. I mean, it's like a Nicodemus moment. Nicodemus asked Jesus, what? I got to go crawl back inside my mother? That ain't going to work. That's material. That's secular thinking. That's human thinking. God's not like that. He's created an easier path for us to do that. From a standpoint of what do you do with the someone that you're attracted to? See, and in that process, and you'll learn that from experience. And if you talk to somebody that's non-Christian and is older, they will tell you a very similar answer. Love is not really the defining decider. It's not the thing that should be the deciding factor on whether you move ahead or don't move ahead. You talk to an 18-year-old, and it's all about the emotional surge. It's all about the looks and the curves and the ripples and the this and the that's and the warm fuzzies and the hair standing and all that kind of visual information. But you talk to a 68-year-old, and they'll tell you that's got very little to do with it. yes, it's important and it's a part of the component, but it's not really what you should be basing it on. From a Christian perspective, it's important to recognize that the love is not just a feeling; it's a choice and it's a commitment.
Right.
You know, to refer to what Pastor IJ was saying, the Bible tells us that God chose to love us when we were the worst, wicked, most heinous things that were possible on the human planet. He said, "No, I choose to love you." Whether you do this, that, or the other is secondary, because but the power of the love choice is going to give me principles to be able to build upon. So when you're looking at an intimate romantic feelings and emotions, these are commonly what we associate in love as significant, but they're not the foundational pieces for a successful, lasting relationship, or in this case, marriage. It's about, prayer and seeking God's guidance. It's about understanding the nature of love. It's about commitment to a covenant. The book that I just recently brought out, I found as I was diving into the research of it, and what it is that I wrote the book from a standpoint of someone that doesn't really understand what covenants are and thinks they understand what marriage is. But I wrote it it's not a comprehensive book. It's a short book that bullet points very specific foundational things that you need to understand. And that's the sacred covenant of marriage. Covenant is not a breakable contract. There's nowhere in covenant that says there's an exit plan. You don't get out of covenant. So before you get into covenant, you better understand what you're getting into. And God tells us that there's a time to get to know the person. And, betrothal is a word that's not used anymore, but it's very, very significant. When you betroth yourself to the other person, you're taking a minimum of a year with no intimacy, just interaction and relationship situations to get to know the person.
Right.
Now, warm fuzzies don't give you the opportunity to do that. I mean, unfortunately, many of us can probably relate to the fact that after the warm fuzzy crescendo, you have a completely different feeling about that person. So that tells you right there that that's not the basis of it. There's a deeper component, and it comes from prayer. It comes from getting to know the individual, set aside the emotions, and just start to look at them. Go in different environments, get into different relationship encounters with them. Go to the movies. Go to some other thing. Get into a discussion about theological things and find out what their reactions are like. And you'll start to see that there's a choice that you can make that says there's principles here that I can build on. If they're sold out to God, if they're born again, there will be ways that you can build into that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciated that. I think just to tell our guests here today who are watching us that this is going to be a series. It's important that we learn. It's important that we learn. Sorry, I'm not sure if someone's speaking. Maybe I'm echoing. But it's important that we learn the foundation, and then from the foundation we can build more on it and keep learning about how to get it right in marriage. This is definitely more of a foundational talk that we're having for people who are intending already in marriage. Doesn't matter how long, but we can learn that even if you didn't get the foundation right the first time, there's still hope. There, you can definitely get it right again. And like we've all been saying, our foundation is Christ. So in Christ, there's always space to relearn. In Christ, there's always space to want to do better. And I'm hoping that we can learn more from that. Just to bounce off of what you were saying, Ambassador Pill, you were speaking on the fact that love is just an emotion. And one of the questions that I wanted to direct at you quickly, and Pastor IJ, you can also add to that as well. I don't know if Pastor Joyce is back. Please let us know if you're back. Oh, we lost her again. Just to build on that, Ambassador.
There she is.
Wow.
Ta-da.
Welcome. Missed you.
I don't know what happened, but it's okay.
Yeah, we're back. Welcome. I guess we'll direct our question to you quickly again. we were talking about how to get it right. We've kind of moved from that, but just to get your perspective on the first piece of information you would give to a young lady or a young man who is looking to get married, what do you tell them, or what is the most important piece of advice you would give them on how to get it right for marriage?
Okay, thank you so much. I will first of all make it known to the young man and to the young woman that marriage goes beyond just love. I know before two people come together, they have to love themselves, but that marriage is just beyond just loving yourselves. Marriage, I take it from this point of view. I watched a movie of an English medieval video, right? And this king, the son was about to get married. He was a kind of betrothed to this lady. They've been together, they love themselves, but it got to a point, things changed. And the father told the son, you can't marry that girl. And he summoned up courage to tell the girl, the lady, sorry, we can't get married. And the lady was like, oh, but you know we love each other. What happens to our love? The guy replied, he said, we don't marry for love. We marry for our God. We marry for the kingdom, and we marry for our duty. So I'm always of the opinion that every young girl and every young boy or young man should consider their purpose in life. Consider the fact that marriage is more spiritual, it's a ministry. So it goes just beyond loving yourselves. Consider the God that you serve, consider the kingdom and the tribe you come from, and the fact that you're going to be performing some duties in this relationship. So all of this put together, you'll be well informed on what or how to go about marriage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to build on that, it looks like all three of you have a notion that love should not be the only thing, or love is not as important as finding a partner that you can do your kingdom assignments with. So I'm going to direct this question at Pastor IJ, because Pastor Ambassador Pill actually spoke on it a little bit. If love is not the most important, is love not still, is love, or shouldn't we find somebody we love? Is love not supposed to be part of it? And I believe that for you to be able to want to do a forever thing with a person, you should be able to like the person, love the person enough to stay with that person forever. So how do we incorporate love into still putting the fact that we want to be with this person for kingdom assignment, for duty, for God? Like, where do we now put love if everyone is having that consensus that love should not be as important?
Okay, that's a very good question. All right. We are not saying that love isn't important. Love is important. All right. We are not discarding the role that love plays in a relationship. All right. I will paint it this way. It is the love that you have. You know, there are different kinds of love. I think, let me define it from there. All right. There are different kinds of love. All right. We've got the agape love. We got the love that is called the eros. We've got the filial love. All right. All of them are called love, but the characteristics of each of these love differs. So if we approach it from that perspective, then I think we'll get it right. The major area that people get it wrong is they center on the eros. All right. That's the affection, the beauty, the curves and the muscles and the six-pack and all that. They focus on that, and that one can't last. The reason why it can't last is everything that is physical is temporal. So over time it will fade off. So if that is the foundation in which that love was built, it will fail. That's why you've got lots of people having failed marriages, because the foundation of what they used to enter into the covenant of marriage was faulty. So over time, boom, it crashes. So remember that it was the love God had for us that made him to leave his throne in heaven and come down on earth to die for us. All right. It's not eros love, it's not filial love, it's the agape love. So the agape love is the love that you are loved beyond your faults and your mistakes and your flaws. All right, the love is beyond that. So that is the kind of love that I'm sure the other speakers are talking about, right? So when they are saying this love is not really the in thing, I think what they mean is the eros love is not the in thing. All right, is the agape love that is the in thing, and you can't get that agape love except you know the giver or the source of the agape love, and the source of the agape love is God. Okay, so that's why you need to build your foundation on God, because that's the only way you can have the flow of the agape love. However, let me also address this. That does not still mean you should just marry any Christian because the person has got agape love.
Right.
All right. All right. There also has to be the eros come into play. All right. Does the person really, is he my kind of person? All right. Do I like him? All right. Is this someone that I would like to be with for the rest of my life? Is this someone that, that shares similar values, all right, like myself, or similar vision like myself? Okay. So all those ones begin to come into play, but that doesn't change the foundation, which is agape. Okay, so yes, love is critical, it's important, all right, but it is the kind of love that we're referencing, which is the agape love. I will stop it here so that I can give time for the other speakers to address the same point. Thank you.
Pastor Joyce, what do you think? Are you there? Okay. Ambassador Michael, can we hear your take as well?
Yeah, Joyce, you're on mute. If you pull off your microphone, we can probably hear you. Very well said, Pastor IJ. You took the words right out of my mouth. The aspect of, if you're not familiar with the terminology that he's using, agape love is the unconditional, unrelenting, immersing kind of love that absorbs your faults and failures, your successes, your triumphs. It kind of encompasses all of the entity of who you are and just wraps you in this unconditional acceptance. That kind of love is really hard to esteem to or to aspire to when we're walking in these flesh containers. Our goal is to move towards that, and don't let that be a deterrent or a mountain that you look up at saying, how can I possibly go up there because I've got so many faults? Because the beauty of that is that you don't have to. It's already been done for you. Christ came and fulfilled all of that for us. That goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. If you're not immersing yourself in at least trying to understand the Bible a little bit better, if you're not taking little tidbits or little devotionals that give you a little nugget of pushing you closer to understanding your spiritual component is much more important than your physical if you're not taking those steps, it's going to be really, really challenging. But the more that you take those steps, the more that you move towards it. What Pastor IJ was mentioning was agape love and then phileo love. Well, that's kind of the a father's love for his daughter, or a mother's love for their children is kind of this. You can't take that away from them. It's kind of inside of them. You know how much your mom and dad love you, or there's relationships like that. That kind of love is not not really understood until you kind of get there and you grow into it, but it's got a depth of love that is different than the all-encompassing wonderful love. It's a little bit different. And then the third component on the hierarchy of it, there's actually four, but we'll just do with the three. The eros is the romantic, the intimate, the emotional, the secular, the visual, the touch, taste, feel kind of, and everyone can relate to that. That's like, riding falling off a wall. You step on a log, you fall off. It's really easy to fall into eros love because it's effortless. It happens from an emotional standpoint. The challenge that Pastor IJ was mentioning, the challenge with us in these type of relationships is that there's a reverse in the hierarchy. We're going eros, hoping to get to phileo, hoping to get to agape. It's the other way around.
Correct.
The agape was poured upon you. It's inherent in you. Your flesh is resisting it, and your phileo love is kind of there when you get that relationship of caring more for someone else than you care for yourself. But the eros is there automatically, and what God is trying to get us to do is to mature into looking at it from a perspective of where He's standing. That's where the love choice comes in. Now, let me just quickly jump into. Will the love grow? And that what was the question again specifically?
Yes, will the love grow? Will the love grow?
Will the love grow? Right.
He's or will I bring him closer to Christ?
There we go. Yes. Thank you. I can speak from personal experience that getting into a marriage with the intent that you're going to change someone is a gross error. You won't happen. It won't happen from a few different standpoints. Well, let me put it a different way. It may happen, but it probably won't happen the way you think it's going to. Because the most important aspect of can I change this person needs to happen before you get married. Let's get into a betrothal. Let's get into a commitment to not see anyone else and just spend time together. No, we're not going to have sex. Because there's a whole other component there, which my book goes into and will probably in the series. If you think you need to understand the person and get the relationship figured out by having intimate relationships with them, that's 150,000% wrong. Because it brings in the wrong component. And there's, it's so wrong. I didn't understand it. I understand it now. When God put it together, you know that the final component of sealing a covenant relationship is having intimate relationships. And you know what it was designed? It was designed both for virgins. I know that's a foreign word in these days. That means you haven't had intimate relationships. And at the end of the ceremonies, at the end of the rings, at the end of the birthday cakes, at the end of all of that, the sealing of the covenant in the spirit realm is the sharing and shedding of blood.
Right.
What happens when a virgin has penetration for the very first time? There's blood. God designed it that way on purpose. It was said that this is the one you're going to be with. To touch on what Pastor IJ was saying, and we're not saying that love is not the component, but we're putting way too much emphasis on the warm fuzzies, on the emotional component of it. The principles of love are based on God's presence in your relationship, within yourself, and then when you walk through that, yes, the person should be, attractive to you, but it's not overly, because attraction is only superficial. It's really not significant. It'll come when you really are in betrothed covenant relationship with someone. People can look at them and say, goodness, are they not very, you look at them and you see absolute beauty. Right. So that's not the component. It's getting to know each other and committing yourself both to the relationship that you have with Christ. If you have a relationship with Christ, you can build a loving, compassionate relationship that people will envy.
Right.
It didn't start that way, but it will grow that way by getting to know each other. Sorry, there's so much in this topic that is significant. Significant.
Thank you so much. Just to build on that as well, Pastor Joyce, welcome back. We're glad to have you.
Hey, great, you're back.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening.
Don't apologize. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Just to build on that, we were just talking about how it's important to love a person, but that should not be the basis of building a marriage. So just to build off of that, my next question to you, Pastor Joyce, is for people who Pastor Ambassador Pill was talking about the fact that you can't change a person. So if you are planning to marry a person, those pre-notions of you getting into a marriage to an unbeliever or somebody who is not strong in faith and changing them down the line because you want to marry them is not realistic. So a question of a Christian lady who is in a courtship with a Muslim man, and she has accepted his proposal and they're planning towards marriage. And her question here is, she's asking, how do you think that they can train or raise children in a household where they've both agreed that you are Christian, I am Muslim? How do we raise our children now that there is love and there is also Pastor Ajay was mentioning the fact that both of you share values. So I'm pretty sure they must have gotten to a point where they believe they share some certain values for her to accept his proposal. So now that they're here, how should they raise their children? Or what are your takes on a Christian lady who is in a courtship with a Muslim man as well?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's, sometimes I can be very blunt. It's a marriage heading towards disaster. Scripture says, how can two work together except they agree? At first, it might seem to her that, oh, we share the same values. I don't know to an extent the values you think you share if you are a Muslim or he's a Muslim and you're a Christian. That's why I started with the quotes from that movie I watched. He said, we marry for God.
Right.
We marry for your duty. And you marry for the kingdom. So you can see that these three things, they are missing in her decision. She's marrying now because of the seeming love she has for this guy. But after some time, things will begin to happen that will depreciate this love. Like we mentioned before, when you go into relationship, when marriage starts, in my book, I made mention of the fact that after 2 weeks of my marriage, when my husband went to work, I sat down and I asked myself the question, okay, we have been married now, and of course, we've had our honeymoon and everything's okay. I said, okay, what's going to keep me in this marriage? I was asking myself, what's going to keep me in this marriage?
Right.
What kept my mom and my dad together for this long? What's going to keep me in this marriage for that long? What will make me not to one day stand up and I say, hey, I don't want to stay with you anymore? And what I heard from God is, you have to build this love. Grow the love you have for him. And there are a lot of things you're going to do that will make this love grow and will make your relationship last longer. And so some of the things that will begin to happen along the line in the course of you marrying a man from a different tribe, from a different kingdom, I want to put it that way, will make you begin to hate this man or will make this love grow. When you want to take your children to church and they say, sorry, you took them to church last Sunday, I want to take them to the mosque. What happened? It's not going to be possible. That's why the Muslim can't even marry you that is a Christian. And you that is a Christian, you can't marry a Muslim because the two of you cannot function well. The family is going to be dysfunctional. The children will not be happy. Somehow along the line, you will not be happy where you're going to find yourself. Yeah.
So for those who are now in that marriage where they're one of the partners is Christian, one of the partner is Muslim, I guess this person also extends the question to the point where she believes that raising their children, it's something I believe that conversation will need to be had between both parties and how they're doing it. But in the case where these two people are already married and she's talking about how would they raise their children, like what advice would you give this person that is already now in this position?
Okay. I have a friend that is actually in this situation right now. Okay. Number one, she was never born again. She was not born again. And that I understand. She was not born again. The other guy was a Muslim. I think two of them were even Muslims, and somehow along the line, she gave her life to Christ. And the guy was kind enough to say, okay, you can take the children to church, but I can't join you. And till today, she's still praying about it. They have got some situations where they don't agree, right? She want to do this thing in a Christian way, and he says it can't happen in the house. So she tells me everything, I just pray. My prayer is that my husband gives his life to Christ. It's not the same. It's not as sweet as it would have been if two of them were sharing, the same religion. Yeah.
Thank
Just
you
keep
so much.
praying. Whoever finds yourself in this situation, keep believing God, and your lifestyle has got a lot to do. The way you do your
Right.
things, prayers, and your own lifestyle has got a lot to do with convincing this man that you're a different person and that your Christianity, is something that can be for him to look at the way you do things different from women of their own religion, and he can compare to say, okay, I think there's something different about this people's religion, and come along. Prayers
Right.
and your lifestyle.
Right. Much. Ambassador Pill, I also have a question for you based on what Pastor Joyce was saying. She said after she got married, 2 weeks after, she sat down and said to herself, how would she sustain this marriage? And
Right.
spoke to
Right.
and said, building. From a male's perspective, what are your takes on building your marriage to sustain it? Like how, because we're talking about the sweetness of marriage, how to enjoy your marriage. So from a man's perspective, because we're going to hear from Pastor Joyce as well, how do you sustain that marriage? How do you build that marriage? What are some of the steps you can take to help you sustain that marriage? Also from like as a Christian as well, like how do you sustain that?
Great question. Great answer, Joyce. Thank you. The the challenge of being in a relationship that you've now realized is not um, conducive to where it is that you want to go. Like those type of, and we're not singling out Muslims, because if a Christian is married to an atheist or a Buddhist or a staunch non-believer or a new spiritual age person, there's going to be conflict, because the foundational understanding of progression and the way that you deal with life situations is different. And so it's really, and she mentioned the part about, okay, what's going to keep me in this relationship? Well, to me, I went through my first marriage. I went through a 27-year engagement. I born and raised in Canada, and I didn't have the strong Christian upbringing. We were the type of family that went to church 3 times a year, Christmas, Easter, and then occasionally, at a funeral, and if we had to, at a wedding, but we never frequented church. It wasn't something that we did, so it wasn't in my upbringing. And then, being attacked by the enemy when I was younger and going into molestations and confusions, and which led me to a life of drug addiction, because I was trying to cover up my shame and disgust in who I was, and I didn't know how else to deal with it. You come to a point of realizing that you've been faking it, and you know that you've been faking it, but you're doing the best you can. So 27 years, May 15th, 2004 at 8:35 p.m. was the 27th year of the common law relationship that I had with Patricia. It was within 2 weeks of studying the Word, realizing that this was wrong. And within 3 months, we were married. Because I realized that, well, I didn't realize, I heard that I can only bless you as far as you will allow me to. I mean, I'm going to cover you. I'm going to look after you. This is kind of the internal dialogue I was having. It says, but the kind of blessing I can give you, the rough picture is you can really care for your neighbor and you will bless them, but you won't bless them to the extent that you'll bless your children or your wife. You just won't. You don't bless them the same way. You don't have the authority. You don't have the permission. You don't have the ability. You don't have you can't bless them the way that you really want to. So God said, I love you. I know that you've been confused. I know that you've been hurt. I know that you've made some bad choices. But all of that aside, let's get it right. And that means you need to get married in a covenant relationship. You need to commit to that. Then I can come in and change things around and move things around for you. So it's coming into that understanding of it. And the component of it was that I had to take some steps. I had to start working on changing my thinking. My miraculous transformation removed addictions to cigarettes and drugs and alcohol and all manner of things. Like it was absolutely miraculous. The next morning I woke up and I was literally a brand new person. The one thing that didn't change was my thinking. Can't do that. God, no matter how amazing he is, he can't come in and change your thinking. That is a component that's required of you as an individual. And that requires work. So what Joyce was saying is you need to work at it. So what things can I do under the understanding of the covenant of this marriage to grow my compassion for him? Love from a man's standpoint, what the Bible tells us that the man is to love the woman unconditionally as if it was his own body and even more, deeper. The Bible says to the woman, you are to respect the man above every other thing. It doesn't say she's supposed to love him. It says you're supposed to respect him. And some people might get that confused and say, well, isn't she supposed to love? Yes, but from a man's standpoint, respect is the greatest attribute of love that he can understand. If you don't respect the man, you might think you got warm fuzzies and you're pleasing him in all other matters, but if you're not respecting him, you're not, in his mind, you're not loving him. When the woman shows the respect, the man gets this feeling inside of him that goes, I got to do more. I got to show more. I got to get better. It's a driving force that he can't resist, that he doesn't want to resist, that he doesn't even try to resist. It just becomes, it's like candy to a baby. It's like he needs to know how he can now please her more. And then it reciprocates because the man is showing his love, because he's self-sacrificing, because he's doing it just because she likes that, because she wants it. He's doing it for that reason. She looks at him and goes, man, this guy just loves me. Like, I want to show him more. And it's this reciprocating process. And when you allow yourself to get into that mindset as a man or a woman, it's almost like you're in competition now to see who can do the most good to the other person. And it completely changes the dynamics. It's not what is pleased. No, what are you going to do to make sure you respect them? No, what's she going to do to make sure that I'm satisfied? Well, what are you going to do to show your love? What are you going to do to and as soon as you do that, as soon as you start looking at how it is that you can contribute, how you can work into the relationship, the love just blossoms. And now you move from eros to phileo, and you start tapping into agape.
Great. Thank you so much. You went into a whole nother conversation at one point when you were about.
I can't.
No. It was so beautiful. You touched on something that I feel like a lot of people outside of North America practice. Like there's something called common law, and then when you said that, I was like quickly brushed through it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, it's something that's practiced like mostly in North America, where people just live together without a commitment or the covenant of marriage. And I think it's important that we establish that that's not right. That's not how it should go.
Just because the law of the land says it's correct does not mean it's correct.
And that's where I'm going to actually ask Pastor IJ quickly, because I think we should have spoken about this at the very beginning. So there is steps for when a believer, either a male or a female, a young lady or a young man, once they find somebody they want to marry, what are those steps actually? Just quickly to give us like an overview, like I found somebody who said he wants to marry me in church as a young girl. What is the next thing to do? And I'm talking even with telling your pastor, church, aside from the personal things that you should do, like what are those foundational steps that, because we're talking about the sweetness of marriage, but how to get it right. So when your foundation is actually right and you've done things in process, what are those steps that you need to do once a man has approached you to say, hey, I want to marry you, just to let those who who don't know what next to do, like what to do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will take it on from here. Once you've prayed, because there are different steps. One is, of course, you need to be of marriageable age, all right? And if you're of marriageable age and you feel there is a prompting within you that says, okay, I need to settle down as a man, there are certain criteria or certain steps that also needs to be met. It's always advisable that the man be sustainable. All right. What it means is he's not living with his father and his mother, and he wants to get married to bring in another person into his father's house or mother's house. All right. Of course, we know in this part of the world that's not so common, but it's always good to also talk about it that the man has to be stable financially. He needs to have a home of himself where he lives, and he needs to be able to take care of himself and have sufficiency to be able to take care of whoever that he wants to bring into his house.
Mm.
All right. Then what once that is established from the man's part, if a man now gets to God tells someone, okay, this is the person that is going to be your future wife, and both of them have prayed, and both of them are convinced that that's what's going to be. The next step is they need to report to the church authority, all right, to let the church authority know of their intention, and there are several reasons for that. Sorry, I think I missed a step. Before the brother approaches the sister, he needs to meet with the church authority to let them know of his intention to approach a sister, of, because it's the man that finds. Okay, and the reason why they normally do that is, I know it might not be so common now, all right, but it used to be very common in my days when I was growing up, right, where you have to let them know. And the reason why we normally do that in my days is to be sure that the person you want to approach is not going out to someone else. All right. So that you are not approaching someone and the person is going to say, no, I don't think, have you prayed? And that lowers the confidence of the guy. But let's say both of them have already agreed that they want to move on. They have to submit to the church authority. And why we normally do that is for the church authority to be aware so that they will guide them. All right. And they will be able to guide and guard, have, uh, have a, walk them through the entire marriage process. Okay, counsel them. That's the whole reason why we always do that, or we advise that they do that. We know that the most people will think, oh, I think I actually know everything, but they don't know everything. There are quite a number of things they don't know. So submitting to the church authority is very good, and passing through the church marriage counseling unit is also very key. People might say, oh, why do I need to pass through all these things? I already know all the things I need to know. But we shouldn't forget that there are people that have gone ahead of us and they know much more than we know. The route we want to take, they may have taken those routes 20 years, 25 years, 30 years in the past, and they walk the ropes and they understand the pitfalls and what to avoid. All right. And the other point is, when this is done, it also helps, them put eyes on the intending couple. Okay. And the reason is, if you are accountable to someone, it makes you stay accountable. It makes you stay focused. But for the most part, I'm saying it from the Christian standpoint, okay? Because from the Christian standpoint, it's different from what other people might want to do. All right, if in the secular world, we don't want people sleeping around even before they are married, because that is against God's injunction. Because it says that the marriage is honorable and the bed is undefiled. All right, we know things like fornication. We don't want that to happen. So those are the reasons why we ask them to do this. So, if I recap, once they've made their intentions known to each other, they have to submit to the church authority. The church authority needs to be aware, and thereafter, the church authority can now make some preliminary discussions. The pastor will discuss with the guy. The pastor's wife can discuss with the lady, and once they know that they are very convinced and they've prayed alongside with them, then they will now move them to the to the church marriage committee for them to go through all the rudimentary processes of getting to be acquainted with the process, and thereafter it goes to marriage. That's the wedding itself. All right, just to summarize. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I also want to just add that I believe that the reason why you've even elaborated more on that is because it has worked for lots of people in the past. So it's important that these steps are taken so that you can enjoy your marriage and also have that support that you can get from people who know better. And that's why I'll throw my next question to you, Pastor Joyce. How important is it to get marriage counseling before and after marriage? I think one thing that, whether it's in church or outside of church, there should be support for people who, even after they've done their marriage, 1 or 2 years after, they still have that counseling just to help them, to guide them and to support them. But how important is it before marriage and even after marriage?
Okay, thank you so much, Adesola. It is very important. You see how people prepare for their wedding. These days, people can prepare for their wedding with 2 years, like they're making all the arrangements. They don't want anything to be mixing. They want to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and select their clothes, their shoes, the venue, everything. That's how important also it is for you to be counseled, because every other thing will pass. In about 2-3 years' time, those shoes, those clothes, you might not even fit into them anymore,
Right.
But you see, this is the real thing. It's how you walk out your marriage. Bible say, walk out your salvation with fear and trembling. That's how it is with marriage. And so you need to be counseled. 2 years is not even enough. Like I tell someone, my life partner, 10 years before I got married. And I started attending marriage seminars at a very early age because I wanted to know. I was hungry to know what will make my marriage succeed. I wanted my marriage to be different from my parents' kind of marriage. So I sought for information. So I moved with people that had gone into marriage, that were already married. I had like 60% of my friends were married people. So I sought for counseling. Is very important. And so for those of us that missed that, all of this, that when you now want to get into marriage and you've made your intention known to the pastor, the church, I know they put together a committee that will pass you through counseling. Don't miss it. Like Pastor IJ said, they've got wealth of knowledge, that experience to pass down to you. They must have made so many mistakes, things that didn't work well with them in their marriage. They will let it known to you so that you don't make. So it's something that every young man, young woman looking forward to go into marriage should really, really crave for, should want that, okay, I need you people to teach me. I need to know what I should prevent and those things I shouldn't. Strengthen my marriage, I need to know them. Read. But then after marriage, it is still okay. These days, I don't think we have a committee put together to handle that for now, but that's why I suggest having a mentor. Yourself and your husband, you must agree on a family. On maybe you, two of you come together to say, okay, we love the way this family run. We like what we see in them. I want to make them our mentor. Should we have any problem? We want to be able to talk to someone. Your husband, it must be someone that your husband will submit to, or your wife will always submit to. Sometimes I am not of the opinion that when something goes wrong in a marriage, you run to your parents, but you can go meet a mentor to counsel. So it is very important that we pass through the marriage counseling, and after marriage, you have a mentor in your life as a couple that you can also talk with when you have any challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, Ambassador Phil, did you want to? You're muted. We can't hear you.
I was just going to say, amen. Great answer. Great, really, really
Awesome.
significantly important.
Yes. So we've discussed the importance of praying when you're looking for a life partner. We've discussed the importance of church, of having the body of Christ being involved. One thing Pastor IJ said that I know a lot of young people might not necessarily like was when he said to keep an eye on you people. And I believe that many young people hearing would be of the opinion, and this question is for you, Ambassador Michael, would be of the opinion that, I mean, I'm of marriageable age, and Pastor Aja did mention that as somebody who is mature enough. I've told the church, and now I'm getting eyes on me.
Mm-hmm. They're going to watch me. Yeah.
That doesn't not capable of even being in that relationship. Now, this is what people who feel like, okay, I've told the church, I've done what I need to do, so why should eyes be on us? You know, why are people looking straight to us? We've done the right thing. We've gone through the process. So why are the eyes on us?
Yeah, leave us alone and let us live our own life. Exactly. I get it. And I'm going to take that, the fact that you're saying the young people, as you're referring to me as the young people's representative. Wow. Okay. If I could go back 30, 40, even 50 years and do this over again, I would seek out something that I didn't really understand. And even then, how do I put this? The gloriousness and the graciousness and the forgiveness and the mercy of God will encompass every single mistake that you're ever going to make. He's already got a plan in place to cover that. So if you're in a situation where you're going to take the attitude such as I would have, who are you to tell me what to do? I'm 22 years old. I'm 25 years old. I got this all figured out. If you're of that attitude, God loves you beyond comprehension. And he made you to be that way on purpose. What has happened is you've missed the double edging part of the blessing of who you are, which is okay. Because God's going to let you go and make a whole bunch of mistakes if that's what you want to do. He doesn't want you to do that. He's got a much better plan. But if you're of the mind that you're going to be, then okay, God bless you. And I mean that he already has. What I would try to inject and plant a seed in someone, if I could go back and talk to myself, I would try to plant a seed of a simple process saying, from a Christian perspective, from a human perspective, the ultimate goal in marriage is to glorify God. Those two words, glorify God. If you just did a study on those two words, it would change your perspective of your attitude towards, well, do I need counseling? Is there steps I should take? Should I maybe? Is it possible that I don't know It'll change the way you ask yourself questions. For example, to glorify God. What does that mean? From a human personal standpoint, that means that you are going to be the best person that he created you to be in your mother's womb before you were even thought of. He had a plan that was just amazing for you, just for you. And the whole point of you being you gives God glory. It glorifies him by you being the happiest person possible, by you being abundantly wealthy, by you being smart and communicative and all the things that you think of the best person that you emulate, the one that you look at, say, man, if I could do things over, I'd be like them. He wants you to be that person, only on steroids. That's what glorifying God means. So if you change your perspective on what it means to glorify him, then you start to get a little bit of instantaneous humbling. If you change the focus of where you're looking. So if I'm to glorify God in my marriage, that's probably an important thing. And what's a good, I want to have a happy marriage. I want to have a, sexually fulfilling marriage. I want to have I want my children to be like the Ojefo children. If we're looking for mentors, you said mentors of a Christian family, point to them. Yeah, sorry guys, your phone's going to start ringing, because I know their children. I know their marriage. I'd look at them and go, if I could just do it over again, I would do it like them. I would use that as an example of how to do it. Are they perfect? No. they're pretty near, but God's working on them. But from a standpoint of glorifying God, it oozes from them. So if you want to have a fun, fulfilling, successful, satisfying marriage, you want to grab hold of those two words, that the ultimate goal in your marriage is to glorify God. And glorifying God means you are the best you that you could possibly be, whatever that means to you as a person.
Right.
I could go on, but I better stop.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think it's really important that even when you're picking a mentor, like Ambassador Pill said, it's very, very important to look for people and pray for people who like they embody the example of the marriage you want to have. It
Yes.
has to be like an agreement between you and your partner. We're rounding up now. My next question would definitely be to Pastor Joyce. We have established the importance of the foundation of marriage and what to do. But now a couple is in marriage and they've had 5 years in marriage and they've been enjoying the gift of love and the gift of God being at the center of their marriage. But now at this point, one of them has made a mistake of being unfaithful. And I know that a lot of people talk about the importance of forgiveness in marriage. Marriage is a union of two great forgivers. And as believers, we don't believe in separation, we don't believe in divorce. And one person has stepped out of their marriage and become unfaithful. And we're talking to people right now who we know that some of them have made a mistake, some of them are even still in that marriage trying to see how they can make it work. For somebody in that situation right now, as we speak, who is watching us, who at the beginning of their marriage, it was great, it was amazing, and one person stepped out and it made it terrible. And now from sweetness, they're not enjoying sweetness, it's now bitter. What are the steps that the person who has been unfaithful should take to get the other person back? And what are the steps that the other person who feels like they've been, cheated on should take to be able to get back there? Because we know it's not an easy step, but we know that divorce is not what we want for any of our close ones, loved ones, or friends watching us right now. So what is your advice?
Thank you very much. Okay. First of all, I want to believe that the two of them are Christians in this regard. And I'll use myself I can talk to you on this because it's something that I spoke about to my husband when I was leaving Nigeria, relocating to Canada, and I left him behind. I came over here with the children. Number one, the person that committed this adultery, like you, the woman, first of all, I want you to clarify the point that number one, settle it in your heart that number one was a mistake, because the love and the relationship has been very, very wonderful. So could it be that he made a mistake? Or is it something that he is perpetually doing? Did he just make one mistake and he came to confess to you? Or he has decided to remain in that mess and is continually in that mess, as in he's just going on and on? But let me address this question from the point of view that he made a mistake. And now you know, should I break up this relationship? I'm hurting. You know what I told my husband when I was leaving for Canada? I said, having stayed with you for these years, I know that you love me from the depth of your heart. I said, now that I'm leaving, I want you to know that I trust you so much. But should you make a mistake, this was my words, should you make a mistake and you fall into the sin, I say, I will be so hurt. I will forgive you. And I will not let this relationship be ruined. That is me. I will not let this relationship die. If a child comes out of it, I say, I'm going to welcome the child. And it's that woman that is going to be thrown out anyways. The strange one that's going to be thrown out.
Right.
I said, I'm going to forgive you because that gift of forgiveness, I don't know, for some reason, God has given it to me. It's a blessing. I don't keep hurt for too long. In as much as you come back to say you're sorry, and I know that you're genuinely sorry, right? Okay. I said, but do you know why I am begging you today not to do it? I said, just because you are a Christian, and you're not just a Christian, you're a pastor, so that the name of God is not dragged to the mud. So I come back to the first point I made. We don't marry just for love. You can see this love is put to test now. We marry for God. We marry for the kingdom. We marry for our duties. So I say, because of God, don't do it. Because there's going to be a lot of people that might never be Christians because of what you have done. And they're going to blaspheme the name of God. I say, so because of God, not just because of me, because I will forgive you, but for the sake of the kingdom, please be disciplined, pray, and be very, very vigilant. That is it. So for any woman or any man that such a thing has happened to you in your relationship, I will advise, if it's a sincere mistake, it shouldn't be the end of a relationship. Remember the story of Joseph and Mary. I always make reference to this story in the Bible. Even when Joseph knew that Mary was with a baby, and he knew he never slept with her, Scripture recorded that he talked to himself that I'm going to put her away privately. That's what he said. I'm not going to shame her. That is the extent at which he loved her. And when God intervened through an angel that don't leave this woman, for the child she's carrying is of me, he did not argue. He followed through. Still got married to her, stuck to her because of the kingdom, because of God, and because of his duty. So, except you know that this man is constantly doing all of this, or the woman is unrepentant and is hurting you real bad, and he careless or she careless, that is when you seek for counsel on what to do. Maybe a temporary separation to see if the person is going to come back to his or her senses, or the last option.
That's amazing. I guess maybe one of the things we'll discuss in our next series will be when to bring in third parties and in-laws, because I'm sure that's a whole different topic on its own, because a lot of people, even in that situation, will still say, no, I don't want a third party. I don't want somebody in my marriage. We can sort this out on our own. I don't want our business out there. I think that's something a lot of people like to talk about. So it's really important that you said that you know that person genuinely loves you and did not mean to hurt you. But we cannot remove the fact that forgiveness is definitely a gift. You have it, but some women and some men it's going to take a lot, because you know how people say, I will forgive, but I will not forget. So it takes a lot. I get it, but one important thing is, and that's why I'm saying that, to tap into the gift of forgiveness, because it's definitely a gift to forgive and let it go, and never, even in one argument, bring it up and say, I remember when you did this to me 2005 at 6 p.m., and bring it up and mention the date and the time, and then you hurt the person and then you rehash old wounds. So it's really important to have that forgiveness spirit, even as a human being, but then bringing it into marriage, just important, because it might not even be even like adultery. It can even be, your spouse offended you, said something they did not mean in that moment, but you hold it into heart. So I guess forgiveness is overall very important in marriage.
Extremely, yes.
We're coming to the end of it now, and I know we have two authors in our midst. So I just wanted both of you to take 1 minute to speak on your book, where to find it, your books, where to find it, how to get a hold of it, and what the book is about, without giving them too much details, so that they have that suspense to go on. Because it's really important that, the build up of that, and then they're eager to come for our next one, because it's going to be amazing. So Ambassador Pearl, you can go first, and then Pastor Joyce.
Oh, I was going to give it to Joyce. Ladies first.
Ladies first, I guess. Okay.
I'm older school, so.
It's okay. Roses and Bliss was born out of this great passion for successful marriages. You know, it was last year as I was clocking 20 years in marriage, I felt I had something inside of me to give to my world about marriage. And there was this notion that marriage is not an achievement, or marriage doesn't worth it, men don't worth it, women, you know, a lot of things were just in the air. And the Spirit of God spoke to me. You know, you have a different view about this and you have a testimony to this. Your marriage has what? Can you please encourage those young ones out there that marriage is a beautiful thing, that marriage can be sweet, and share your testimony. So my book is a story of how I started, you know, detesting marriage as a young teenage girl, feeling that I would never get married because of what I saw around me, and how I came to Jesus, and how I prayed and how I got it right, and the journey so far, and everything you need to do as a young girl, as a married woman, as a mother, as a not as a sister-in-law, to make a marriage a huge success. You can get my book. It's on Amazon platform. It's on my website also, and the audio version will be out early next year.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. It's a wonderful book. You need to get a hold of it. She's a gifted woman.
There's a lot of stories in there. Go read them. You're going to love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm coming at it from a different perspective. I've got two marriages. The first one ended in my wife deciding to exit the planet and go be with Jesus instead of staying with me. So it's not like it. I mean, that was after 30 years of us being together, doing it wrong. The last 3 years of it, we did it right. She ended up having a massive heart attack in her sleep January 4th, 2007, and she went home to be with Jesus. It was a transformation process of accepting Christ and understanding that, getting a moment to realize in James 1 where it says, when you're met with the largest tribulation and trials that you could possibly imagine, count it all joy. I was able to tap into that because of the presence of Christ. Then the second marriage that I entered into was a marriage of incorrect alignment. Let's put it that way. We were together 12 years and realized that we were better friends than we were spouses. So we walked into that process. The book itself is based on a covenant understanding, or diving into understanding what covenant really is. And there's some principles that if you will step into the covenant, you will get through the emotions of the warm fuzzies and the love component and the mutual respect and having to ask people and doing it right. You'll get through those with an understanding that there's not a specific soulmate that's out there for you. There's a covenant partner. And that covenant partner is one that will commit to the principles of a covenant and work at it just as hard as you will. And in that process, the love that emerges and comes up is much, much more significant than you could possibly imagine. I'm going to try something here. I know it's real quick. Is you can get my book on the website. I want to share with you mlpeel.com/marriage. Is it showing on the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So if you go to mlpeel.com/marriage, I'm giving away the book for free. It's a short ebook. It's only like 60, 70 pages long. It's not like Joyce's comprehensive book. Hers it's much more significant, much more focused. This one is meant as a awakening. If you fill in your name and your first name and your email, and you'll get the book sent directly to you. But also, there's where is it? No, it's over here.
Nope.
So once you request the book for free, you'll be sent to the landing page, It's the Covenant Marriage series. It's an introduction to the sacred covenant of marriage from a biblical perspective. It's not comprehensive. It's introductory meant. It's meant to stir up some questions. You know, there's the sanctity and sacredness of marriage has been lost. And Genesis 15, it's a covenant. It shows the example of one of the stark realizations of the covenant, the walk of blood, the commitment, the understanding that when you walk into a marriage, you're not just flippantly deciding to spend the rest of your life with somebody. It's serious business, and it's never meant to enter into lightly. And then on the website itself, once you receive it, I've placed a flip book on here, so you can actually go through and start to read it, as well as get a PDF copy of it as well. So mlpeel.com/marriage, and you can partake on that if you wish to. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Let me stop
And
the share and
finally,
share now.
thank you so much. Finally, my last question is going to go to Pastor IJ. In the world where, you know, separation and divorce is becoming very loud, everybody's talking about, oh, in my generation, they say men are scum, and, you know, women are also not serious. So my question to you is marriage sweet? You know, is this sweet or is this sweet?
All right. Marriage is the original design of marriage is for it to be interesting.
Right.
It's because of the perversion of humans that have begun to make marriage is now making people see marriage as something different from what God's original creation and intent is. Remember, right, that everything God created in the book of Genesis, chapter number 1 and chapter number 2 were perfect. It was from chapter number 3 that imperfection came. All right. So if God created marriage in the context of Genesis 1, Genesis 2, there, and it's everything. Remember, when God was done, he said, and God saw that it was good. It was good. It was good. So marriage is good. It was a very good creation. There is no two ways about it. All right. So how do you make it good? I'll always go back again to the original. What I said when we started is for you to go back to the creator. All right. And he will help you to have something good. Anything outside of God can never be good, regardless of how you see it, regardless of what people say. All right. What makes it good is when it has the roots and the foundation of God. Right. So marriage is beautiful. Marriage is good. We are a testimony that marriage is good. All right. And it's because we anchored it on God. Right. So everyone that will dare to anchor his or her marriage on God will still see the fact that it is good. And let me also bring this point. There are some Christian marriages that are also having problems. I'm not saying that Christian marriages don't have problems. They do have problems. All right. However, there is no every problem has a foundation. If you're able to dig to the foundation and solve whatever is the fundamental issue with that marriage, it will become good. And also, let me bring this one. Some unbelievers still have marriages that are also good. All right. The only thing that we always say is, if that marriage gets tested, the tendency of it standing the test of time is very slim, right? So it might look so good, it might look so beautiful, but when it is shaken or tested, it most likely will fall apart. The reason why it wouldn't fall apart for a Christian believing marriage is because they will run back to their anchor, to their root, and he's able to stand in and ensure that they overcome the storms of life. I hope that clarifies it.
Marriage is sweet. Oh. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our speakers, Pastor IJ, Pastor Joyce, Ambassador Pill. We really appreciate it. We don't take it for granted. I think it's always good that people share their experiences and share their knowledge, so that for people who cannot watch this live, they can always go back to it, send it to a friend. This is going to be available. And also to thank our host today. I am a representative of Cleveland.
Amen. Yes.
I'm here speaking to you guys live from Canada. this is also going to be available on Cleveland TV, and it's also going to be available on our YouTube channel. And also to join our platform, you're going to be able to find that on www.cleveland.com. Please join. It's an amazing platform. It brings awareness to whatever you're doing, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a retailer, as long as you're an entrepreneur. It's just a platform that creates awareness to whatever you're doing and to showcase you all over the world. And we hope that you enjoyed this, and to watch out for the next series for more. And if this is posted on any of the platforms and you have questions, please drop the questions there. We'll be checking. You never know who is there to answer those questions. And we hope that you were blessed and you've learned from this. Have an amazing rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so
Amen.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
So
Thank
much,
you so
Adesola.
much. Okay
Bye.
then.
Bye.